This is a follow-up review on the ENGWE N1 Pro. I've already done a video review of this, which I will link to in the description below. So check that one out. That's my initial review after riding it for several weeks. Now that I've had it for several months, I wanted to do a follow-up because there's been some interesting findings and observations of riding this bike. First and foremost, the ride quality is still amazing. Probably one of my favorite bikes for cruising on flat terrain, especially because depending on what the tire pressures are, you can have a really smooth experience, and the carbon fork and frame, they just soak up all those micro vibrations which you would otherwise get on a standard alloy framed bike. And I've not missed not having front suspension, for example, or rear suspension for that matter, as a result of that. And I have done some light off-roading on it as well, gravel and back road tracks and so on, without any issues at all. Just got to ride a bit careful because they are skinny tyres, so you don't want to slip on loose terrain and so on, but otherwise it's been perfectly fine. First off, let's get the quirks out of the way, so the issues and things that I've noticed. I did have ENGWE send me a spare solar powered rear tail light. Now you can see there's a light flashing on there at the moment. I'm not quite sure what that light means, but the issue I had was the one that came with the bike did not have a battery inside, so the back panel was missing and the battery had fallen out. I'm guessing either in transit somewhere or at the factory, so it wasn't actually working. Now the replacement, which is this one, it has been working, but a few weeks after I installed it, it stopped working. So it's supposed to turn on once light levels fall and the bike is moving, but that has stopped, so it is just acting as a reflector now, a passive reflector. I do need to ask them what that flashing light means though, so I will do that. In the meantime, I just had a spare £8 USB-C rechargeable tail light, which is actually very good. So if I turn that on, yeah, and you've got various modes and so on, and it charges by USB-C. I charge this maybe once every 4 months. That's how long the batteries last on this. That's really good. So yeah, that does the job instead of that, so I'm not too bothered, to be honest. The saddle, I'm 5'8". My leg length on my trousers is 30 inches. So to give you an idea of my height, and yeah, so just for those who are similar in height, and I've got the seat post at this height, and that works perfectly fine for me. But you have got an additional 3 or 4 inches to extend it should you need to, but just be wary of the line, the limit marker. It does come with a longer saddle post as well, so if you are taller then you can install the longer one. Normally I'd replace the saddle because most bikes come with crap ones, but this has been fine, so I've not had any reason to change that. What I did change though was the pedals. So even though it comes with platform pedals which have studs in them, they are plastic studs and it is just a basic pedal. I prefer these ones, which I've had on all my bikes, so about £20 off Amazon, and metal studs as well, so it just feels nicer to use, and they're a bit wider as well compared to the stock ones, so I like those, and it kind of matches exactly with the bike's frame as well. I also got the Fun FUMM grips off Amazon. Again, these are way better quality than the stock Chinese rubbish quality silicone grips that come with the bike. And there's no sort of transfer, there's no lint that gathers on them or anything like that. It just feels more premium, and it makes the bike look nicer as well. So let's get a look from there. Let's get a view from the front. Now I can't show you the display, or there's not much to talk about in terms of updates, but battery is dead at the moment, and that's fine. So I've been riding it for a few weeks and I forgot to charge it. But it was a good test to see how it rides without battery power. And I'll just cover the battery quickly as well. There are 2 batteries in this. You've got the primary battery, and then you've got a secondary battery as well, which is for the smart features, the security features. And there is an eSIM inside here as well. So the way that works is, I had a clarification from ENGWE about this. Within the first 12 months after purchase, you get a free subscription to the smart services, so the geofencing, smart alerts to your phone if the bike's moved and whatnot. And that just sends a 4G signal to your app on the phone, and then you get notified if the bike is doing something abnormal or someone's trying to steal it or whatever. There is an alarm as well that sounds, it's like a car alarm, if someone moves the bike or wiggles it. So that's good. Another security feature is it will lock this bit here, where it's a smart lock. Behind here, there is a deadbolt which goes through the brake rotor. So that will lock the rear wheel, so you can't actually ride the bike away or wheel it away. So it's an additional security feature to deter people from stealing the bike. They could potentially still carry it away, but it is 19 kilos, so they're not going to get very far if they do that. So it's just keeping that in mind. The battery, I ride to climbing once a week, and I do some casual riding throughout the week anyway. So on average, I probably ride 50 miles a week, and I get that range from a full charge. Now I am most of the time sitting in mode 1 and 2. Actually no, 2 and 3 most of the time. And most of my terrain riding is mixed incline. So there are some hills, there are some slopes and so on as well. But I do some off-roading as well, just around here, because we've got the beach and coastlines with the tree lines and forestry areas. So mixed riding basically, and I do go quite fast as well. So with all that included, I'd average about 50 miles, 40-50 miles is a fair estimate, I'd say. I say estimate because when you turn the bike off, just like all of ENGWE's recent bikes, the short-term trip computer does reset itself every time you power it on. The long-term odometer does stay from day one until you reset it, but the short-term one resets every time, which is a bit annoying because the P20 I had, that one you could manually reset it whenever you wanted to, otherwise it would stay the same. So I was using the short-term meter to track battery range per charge. So now I have to remember to write things down if I want to track that instead. So that's kind of annoying because I don't remember to do that all the time, and I've ridden several miles and then just remembered. So it's just keeping a mental note of how far I've ridden, or the estimate of how far I might have gone on the previous full charge. But yeah, 40 to 50 miles about average, which is about right, because ENGWE's own estimates are based on absolutely flat terrain, mode 1 all the time, a rider that's no more than 75 kilos, I believe, and basically ideal conditions for everything, tire pressures and so on as well. And speaking of tire pressure, most of the time I ride it at 43 psi front and back. That gives enough rolling resistance to be smooth on tarmac. But if I want to go off-road a bit more, or if I want a bit more grip, then I'll lower it down to about 34, 35 psi, or 30 psi at the lowest, and that's fine as well. But for the smoothest ride, for the most range from the battery because of the rolling resistance, 43 psi to 45 I found to be about right. So yeah, that's going to be no problems at all with that. The motor has been faultless for me. So it is the Ananda motor in this. I've not had any issues with the crank or anything like that. So it's been faultless. It's just been perfectly fine. And as I've got no battery power now, I have been riding it for a couple of miles without battery power at all. Thanks to the 7-speed transmission, it has been no problems at all. So it just feels like, without power, feels like I'm riding a normal 7-speed bike, which is perfectly fine. I can ride it around about 18-19 miles an hour this way as well. So yeah, it's no complaints at all with that. Other ENGWE bikes or other e-bikes that I've ridden, when you've got no battery power left or you turn off the computer, you do have a lot of effort that you need to put into the crank to pedal, so it just feels heavy, whereas this doesn't do that. So I don't know if it's because it's a mid-drive motor and you're driving it that way, and now that there's no power going through the system, it's just a lot more easier to ride, or if it's because of the Shimano Tawny drivetrain in there. But it's smooth and it's effortless to drive without battery power, which is really good. Show you a close-up of the cassette. I have not cleaned this in, well, since I got the bike, so you can see what the condition of it's like. And I have ridden it in damp conditions as well. A little bit of a surface corrosion, but nothing major. But otherwise, the chain is clean and operates silently as well. And the derailleur, I have wiped it a few times, but it's just surface dirt and grime that I don't want to get stuck in the sprockets. So that's been fine. I haven't needed to adjust any of the tensioners or anything like that either. Just a few twists to fine-tune the noise, but otherwise it's been really smooth drivetrain, and it surprised me because I was expecting it to be noisy after several weeks of riding, but it's remained the same all these months later. So yeah, very impressed with that. And I like that it's all through axle as well, not hook type like the previous bikes. And the front discs and rear discs 160mm front and back, and the pads are Shimano as well, as are the brakes. And the strength front and back, excellent, whether it's damp conditions or dry. Plenty of stopping power on this. As I say, it's a carbon fork, carbon frame, lightweight bike. I wouldn't have expected any issues anyway. But most of the issues that I have had in the past with stock brakes have been with Tektro units, not Shimano. So it's really good that these are so good on it. I've not had to decontaminate the pads or anything like that. So that's really good. Thumbs up from me. Other than the light failing twice, the pedals that I replaced, the grips that I replaced, but they're more preferential. It's just kind of my thing. There's a little scratch on the display's frame here, and you can't really change. So I've just had to leave the cemetery because they're locking it up for the night. I chose to do the first half of the review in the cemetery because it's the quietest place in town nearby at the moment. Always got a moped going by or loud noises or whatever, just wind noise and so on. But hey-o, it is what it is. But pretty much done anyway. There's a little scratch or a little air bubble under the laminate of the screen. So there is that. I don't know how that happened, but it is there. What else have I changed? Mud flaps were on fine as well. They do clatter a bit when you're going over bumps and things, so just keeping that in mind. But otherwise, it's a smooth riding bike with very little noise. There's no cable clattering on the inside of the frame, so that's really good. This bit here, this cable wrap, when the headlight is on, so it is a two-way headlight, you've got high beam and low beam. When the high beam is on, you do get some glare. So this is my riding height, and you can see this bit here. So some glare does bounce back and cause slight annoyance sometimes. But when you hold with the light on, when you hold the power button, or sorry, when you press it twice, it will switch to low beam, and it takes away some of the glare. Some of it's still there, so it's just worth keeping that in mind. Some people might find that annoying, some people might not care, but it's just something I observed, so I thought it's worth mentioning. Brake levers, Shimano, so they work really well. There's a lot of progressiveness in the feel of the lever, front and back, so that's good. Shifter's really good, rapid fire obviously, so that works, no problems at all. Brakes I've talked about, they're really good. The front mud flap, I tried to change, so this screw was missing in the box. I think it might have fallen off at some point. So I put one on there, and unfortunately I've threaded that screw head, so I need to sort that out at some point. So it is a little loose, but not major. The riser bar you can't change because the screen is built into it, and you've got all the wiring that goes through it anyway under here. But you can change the height of the handlebars, which you've got your spaces there for, so you'll need to cut it down. You might be able to install a longer stem post, but I haven't really taken the fork off to check if you can do that or not. Normally you can with some bikes, but it's worth checking if you need to have it a bit higher. But that's the default height that it comes with. I've not changed anything, so just to give you an idea of how much room you've got to work with there. Works fine for me. Again, I'm 5'8", and this sort of setup works just right for me. Now this bike does catch a lot of attention. A lot of people have asked what kind of bike it is, who makes it and so on, because it's the frame shape that catches people in the first instance. It is a bit unusual, it looks more like a coat hanger, but yeah, it's just one of those things really. And I like the colour, it sort of blends in with the background when you're riding out on cycle tracks amongst greenery. So if I just get angling there, yeah, it sort of camouflages a bit. So one of the smart features is both of these sides are RGB lights that you can enable. Obviously it uses a bit more battery, I don't use that stuff, but yeah, you can turn those on, have ambient lighting and so on without having the headlights on. I just leave it off, to be honest. It's not something I'm too bothered about. I do like the smart features, so I will be, after a year, once the free trial of it goes away, within the app I'm guessing you'll get the option to subscribe thereafter. So I will be using that because I do use that quite a lot. And if I'm leaving my bike somewhere, even if it's locked up or not, someone tries to move it, I do get an alert saying bike's moving abnormally on my phone. So having that 4G connection is really beneficial. And because it's an actual alarm as well, anyone trying something will be deterred by the sound. And obviously they can't ride it away because the rear wheel's locked because of the deadbolt. I have got the pin code enabled on it as well. So when you turn the bike on, you have to enter your 4-digit code to unlock it. You can also unlock it via the app. So if you don't want to use the thing, you can pre-unlock it via the app. So it's there. Now that only works if the bike hasn't entered standby mode, and when it enters standby mode is dictated by the battery level. So for example, I leave my bike in the shed locked up without the charger being plugged in, and if it's on a full charge or if it's 90% or nearly full charge, I think it goes weeks without going into standby mode. And what standby mode is, you've got an internal battery for the smart system and you've got your primary battery. The primary battery charges the internal system. Cat. Hello. Come on. Kitty. Psst, 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 psst. Psst, 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 psst. Does that work? I don't think it works. This cat is not interested at all. Or maybe. Hello? What's that? I'll give you pets. Yeah, come on. Yep, come on. Hello. I'm friendly. Gotta smell me out first. Here we go. There we go. Now we're friends. Right, do you like this bike? I'm guessing that's a no. Right, let's get back to the bike. So, what was I saying before I got distracted by cats? I have forgotten now. I think we're done. Yeah, great bike. This is my main bike now that I use for everything. And this will be my reference point for other e-bikes that ENGWE send me and other companies. I've got a few who are waiting to ship to the UK, so I will be comparing against this. This is my, as I say, it's a reference bike now. This is what all e-bikes that I have from now on in for test, or even ones that I get myself, will have to match up against. Cosmetic stuff like grips, pedals and so on, I'm not too bothered about. You can change those anyway anytime. But the level of quality, the paintwork, the finishing, the lightweightness and how it feels, this is a very nimble bike through turns and things, and it feels more like a traditional aluminium mountain bike than an e-bike. It does not feel like an e-bike when you're riding it. Other e-bikes you can feel the weight, turning, riding, pedaling and so on. Even without e-power, pedaling on this is really easy, and it feels like just a normal bike, which is one of the huge benefits for me. I might be doing a long ride one day and the battery just dies, for example, and I forgot to charge it the night before, like I did now, so the battery's dead now, but I can still ride it like a normal bike. Other e-bikes, pedaling without power is really difficult because there's a lot of resistance going through the motors as you're trying to pedal. Now, I don't know if that's because it's a mid-drive motor or because of the Ananda motor in this. Once there's no power, it's just a lot easier. Obviously, once you lose power, you lose the smart features, unless there's some latent charge still inside the secondary battery, which there isn't at the moment because I forgot to charge it. Oh yeah, that's what I was talking about. So the reserve battery, the standby mode, it only activates depending on the battery level. How long it takes to activate depends on the battery level. So if you're below, say, 40%, it will enter standby mode sooner than it would if the battery was at 90%, as an example. And then what standby mode means is it puts the battery to its complete sleep state to protect it and also conserve as much energy as possible. Now the battery is completely dead because I have been riding it, but what that would mean is in order to wake the bike back up when it's in standby mode, you can't do it by turning the bike on or using the app because it's in full standby mode. So the bike, imagine you've left it in your shed or lockup or whatever, and the bike's locked, the deadbolt's on, but it's entered standby mode. There's no way you can turn it on via the switch or the app, and you can't move the bike because the deadbolt's on as well. What you have to do, you have to plug in the charger for about 10 seconds, and that reactivates the battery, and then you can turn it on, enter your pin code, and then the bike unlocks. So it's just worth keeping that in mind, where it's both a safety feature and a protection feature as well. So it just makes sure the battery isn't completely dead, which it is now because I've been riding it. So as soon as I get in, I'll put it back on charge, but it's worth keeping that in mind. It's not a feature I've seen on other bikes, e-bikes before, and I've had several. And this is what it sounds like riding it. and just pedaling. As you can probably, hopefully hear, it's very quiet. And this is in gear 4 at the moment. So let's go up. So gear 7. Back down to gear 4. But yeah, I'll do another video of e-bikes once I get the next model in, which should hopefully be over the course of the summer. I'm not sure what models ENGWE are working on or the other brand, but yeah, I'll keep you all posted.